Welcome, Kat.
Thank you, Von. Looking forward to today.
I'm excited about today's topic. I think it's one that affects a lot of parents. It's a parent podcast today, but also just how you think about things as well. And it's helping parents transition their kids to adulthood. I wanted to just start with talking about a podcast that I heard from that motivational speaker, Mel Robbins. Is that it?
I love her, yeah.
Mel Robbins. And it was just a recent one, and she was saying, how if you've sent your kid off to college, great job, but if they're calling you up and saying, oh, this is not for me, I haven't found my people, I haven't found my vibe, the teachers or lecturers or whatever it is, they're terrible, everyone's weird or whatever it is, I want to come home, I don't like it here, just to not get into that narrative with your child and not allow them to come home and tell them, no, this is pretty much the big scary world. You've got to basically suck it up, buttercup.
Tough.
Yeah, and I thought to myself,
what's your take on it?
Okay, fair enough. I'm sure, but at the same time, that's a pretty hard thing to hear as a college student if you've never been taught the skills of how to cope. And I think the podcast today is a little bit about transitioning a child into adulthood. Yes, it can be challenging, so you don't have to pick up a phone call in college, but also when do you start doing it? And I see it with like my eldest. I have to start doing it now.
Yeah, how
while
old is he?
He's in high school. I started when he was 12, coming on to 13, and it was as simple as, do you have that motivation to go and do your homework on your own without me telling you to do it? And he didn't. And I would wait and I let him, okay, fine, there you go, we'll just wait and wait. And weeks went by and I could have easily given it months until I had said, hey, don't you have some homework? You need to. But what I found was it's not about the motivation to do it. He actually didn't know how to prepare himself, there's no executive functioning, I suppose that's what they're called, right? The executive functioning skills that you are just expected to have when you start high school as well. So when I say executive functioning and starting high school, it's about, okay, so you have 10 different subjects that you're going to, or whatever it is. You got to have a calculator for one subject, a particular book for another, it's a different teacher, all those skills that you need to, intertwine to get yourself to where you've got to go. You got to remember your bag, and then you've got gym, and then you have
it's a lot. I have to say on their behalf, it is a lot.
It's a lot, and especially Kat, you have so much experience in this area. Like you don't just work in clinic. You work as a school counsellor, and you would see so much adolescents and teenagers. And I'd love to hear your view on it, like transitioning teens. What are the challenges?
It's so interesting as a mum that you raise that point, because the thing that older teenagers, I'd say, complain about the most, what they present to when they're coming to see me, their number one concern, can you guess what it is? There's two things, but can you guess what it is?
There's too much stuff to carry.
Sort of, maybe. No, so the number one thing that I see them on is about procrastination. They are seriously concerned about it, and I'll speak to that. And the second one, interestingly, is about like a social anxiety, a really profound embarrassment of presenting in front of their peers or speaking in front of their peers, or even going to a shop and wanting to try something on and asking the shop assistant if they can try it on. I have to role play with them how to do that. Isn't that interesting?
I could see that.
Yeah, so they're the two things. But with procrastination, what you just made me think of that is fundamental and important, and now it's inspired me to address this with them, is I don't think it's that they don't know how to do the work. Once you teach them how to sit down and do the actual work, but it's even getting to the point of the routine that comes before actually doing the work. So at this point in the day, the amount of schedules I've written for kids is I can do it in my sleep now. Fill in what after school activities are already done. When do you get home? When do you eat? When do you shower? When, and I said, this is what's left. Okay. I'm not going to tell you how much study is appropriate. You're going to tell me what you would be happy to try and work towards. They tell me, we write it in, and then it's a matter of getting them to honour that timetable, which sometimes works.
Yep.
But increasing their own motivation.
The intrinsic
motivation, like I can only speak for myself. That didn't kick in for me till my early 20s at uni. Like I genuinely preferred to socialise. I wasn't interested. So like developmentally, that's when, for a lot of reasons, that's when I reached my maturity in relation to that, and I haven't stopped studying. When we are working with teenagers that do want to apply themselves, do want to do better, do need that guidance, I think part of it is what you said, and it's getting them to understand the micro details of what that looks like.
Yeah. I was thinking, I'm going to put this out there, just from that expat spin of it. I'm only going to talk about my own kids, obviously, but do you think it's that expat kid culture here in Dubai that also doesn't help them have those types of executive functioning skills?
Why are you suggesting?
I don't know. There are many times my kids would not make the bed because their nanny will make the bed, and they'll just forget, and we're all in a rush. Everyone's in a rush in the morning. We do not have a nanny culture in Australia.
That's true.
I had to make
I made my own lunch. We packed our own bag.
Yes.
I know. I do think about that.
Yeah.
I do think about that.
Because that's where they start. Those little...
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So that's the kind of thing, they're the kind of things that I was implementing. Just, you're making your bed. You're packing your lunchbox. You're taking the steps out of the fridge into the bag. And then also the consequences of forgetting.
There you are.
Right?
That's the hard bit.
That's the hard bit. And then being called up, and also I can imagine there's so many parents out there that get a call from their kid. I've left my football boots, mouth guard, netball, whatever it is. Can you come and bring it? And you're just like, well, actually, what do you say? Do you say no?
Well, I can tell you in Australia that my entire schooling career, my parents, if I forgot my lunch, my books, there is no chance, there was zero possibility that anyone was coming to deliver it. That would not happen. You would go without lunch.
Yeah.
You would take the consequence for not doing the homework. You'd just suck it up.
Suck it up, buttercup.
That's what you do.
Yeah.
But it's different here.
It is. And that's what I wanted, because obviously we're doing these podcasts for expat parents. I wonder, if it has an effect. Like, listeners, please reach in and tell us, do you think it does? Have you done something different at home because you can see it yourself? Like, it's even just the crossing the road.
Yeah. But it's even a different generation of parents, right? Like we are doing things so differently. I can speak for myself.
Yeah.
No, actually, there's a lot of overlap with how my parents did things, but a lot of things are different as well. And I think one of them is that if I said to my parents, I'm too sick to go to school, it didn't matter. That was like, I think I had 2 sick days and that wasn't because I wanted to have more, but it just was not even a possibility.
Yeah, no, we don't do that at home. Sick days are if you're not running a temperature.
And the other one was like, I remember growing up and being like, why hadn't I done something? Maths homework, why is your teacher complaining? I'd try and argue my case and say it was the teacher. I was put in my place. It was always my fault. It was never the teacher's fault.
Yeah.
And this I notice is very different.
I think that is a key point there. There's this, I've noticed, it's not a movement, it wouldn't be called a movement, but I have noticed that we seem to put onus on teacher when grades are bad versus onus on the child.
Yeah.
Why is my child scoring 60 here, not, hey, what are you doing? We need to change your schedule. You need to drop something in your extracurricular activities. Things need to move. You cannot be, again, onus on them. So I think I wonder if some of those things is what's letting
It is that. And
Because
I think
also as an expat, when we send, if our children choose to go to university or college or whatever it is, more often than not, it's not a, if it's not working out, we're not driving a couple of hours to go grab them. It's on a plane.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that there's a lot of money involved in setting up a child overseas to board or whatever it is.
And I think a word you said like early on in this, and I guess it's something that is important to cultivate no matter where you're living, expat or not, and that is like a sense of responsibility. And that only comes when the parent can sit on their hands and not, what is it called? Like overparent, not overparent.
Right.
Don't argue their case. Don't give them an excuse for not doing the homework. Don't, this is my fault, bring the swimming costume when they've forgotten it. And it's really way harder to do. It's very easy for me to go and save the day in my adult, here I am with my adult Superman cape, than it is to watch my kids suffer. And there's degrees of this. We're not talking about,
I totally get it. But but also it's a chance to learn, like if that happens, having a self-reflection about it. Okay, so what went wrong there?
Yeah.
How can we fix that? Let's set, like you were saying earlier, let's set some meaningful goals. Let's reflect on the progress and how we can manage the stress and frustration as a family as well, because I can't be jumping out. I work, dad works, whatever it is. And you can't be always expecting that and having those open conversations with your child versus, oh, the day's finished. Let's just forget about it and let's move on.
But I think you have obviously self-reflected on this. You're very reflective as a parent. I think what tends to happen is things only come into view when something has gone really wrong, when the bad result has come, when they're really struggling at school, when the school has called. It's a reactive mode. And all the steps that needed to go into place, like the protective mode, the proactive mode, needed to kick in way back then. And so what we do, we snap it at the kid or we snap it at the school when really it's all of us have a role to play. They're still young. They're young people. It's not that they're not expected to be mini adults. I don't view them that way. All of the work needed to go into preparing them emotionally, psychologically, socially, intellectually before. And the way I explain it to parents, I know previously, I don't know, they used to say you're their cheerleader or you're their, I don't know, their number one fan, whatever it is. But what really needs to happen is a more neutral lens, which is like a coach. Yeah. It's like you're a coach for your kid. And that is so important. That's the role.
You're not controlling anymore. No. You were controlling a little bit when they were in primary, managing this, that, whatever it is, running after them. Now you're coaching. You're their coach. You cannot control. You can only influence.
You can only guide, reflect, guide, reflect, guide, reflect. This is it. And trust. And trust that they may not get it the first 10 times, but they might get it the 11th. And I think I notice myself overparenting in a lot of instances, my own children, and it's an active process for me not to do that because the discomfort is on me. My kid's not uncomfortable it's me that's uncomfortable.
Yeah. Yep.
So self-awareness as a parent and viewing it from the lens of course we are there to guide, and I think there are real cultural differences in how we parent, and that's a podcast episode actually that's a very important podcast episode. I'm going to use an example here, but our podcast editor is of this background, so he might laugh at this. My husband watches sort of Russian parents and the way they're so strict with their kids, and he hits me on it and he goes, see, this is how we should be doing it.
Yes, that's
and
how.
I'm like,
Eastern
I'm
European
softly.
Yes.
And then there's Indian parents, and I'm like, how do you get a doctor-lawyer combination? How did you do that?
Yep.
We've inherited our parenting style. It's influenced in all sorts of ways. Add social media to the mix now, and it's really easy to lose touch with what do you think is the best thing, because it is individual, right?
But I think it's also fostering that independence, like teaching them ways that you manage as well. So if they see you you hate to use the word, but if they don't see you scattered and running around, that they'll be able to see that you have some way of managing your time, that you should teach them how you're doing that as well. And I have an example of this, and it's so simple. But I was just shocked when I saw that my son was doing it. And it was as simple as, if you've got a few things going on throughout the day, you have a phone. Set alarms. Just set an alarm.
I like it.
If you know you've got to be, or you've got to get ready and leave at 3:30, but you've got to put on your football gear, get all your stuff ready, set the alarm half an hour before at 3 p.m. And when it rings, you know you've got to go.
I love that.
And another thing, and if you can't remember, just use your calendar. You've got a calendar in your phone as well. Just on that day, right, do this, do that. Your phone, your alarm will ring. You go to your calendar. If you can't remember, you go, that's right, I've got to do that. Lists.
I really like that.
It's as simple as lists and alarms to remind you. And simple practices like that, once you teach or incorporate into kids' lives from that young age, they see, as soon as they see it helps, they're more inclined to do it. You know, themselves as well. And I think that's super important.
I think that's a really lovely, clear example, because it's all those little things like packing your bag the night before or laying out the clothes, you know, downstairs. Those little micro habits.
That you'd start.
That are developmentally appropriate for even a 5-year-old to manage, maybe not the time alarms. There's lots that you can start very young. I'm just like mortified because obviously school starts early and we're like, I just find that we're always like rushing out the door. And I hate that strong. I really am conscious of the fact that I don't want my kids' experience of me to just be, quick, get in the car, quick, we're late, quick. Like, honest, like, what anxiety. Is that? Cortisol. That is me every morning. I'm tomorrow, different me, different mum, not doing it. Just being mindful of just that. It's not an emergency.
And having a calendar, them seeing that. If you're, I'm going to say this, some listeners are going to absolutely hate me. But if you don't have a calendar in your house, and I'm looking at your face, I know you have a calendar. I know you do.
We don't.
If you don't have a calendar,
yes, Yvonne,
a month by month calendar where it's January and the kids can see, and your family can see, and your husband can see, and you can see the days, and you can not in this person's birthday, that person's birthday, this is what we're doing here. I don't know how families run.
New me, new mum tomorrow. Calendar and no urgency getting in the car. This is my goals moving forward.
What happens is, all jokes aside, your kids see that. And they go, this is somewhere, neuro pathways in the brain. I see my day ahead. Today's sport. And I find my kids going to the cattling. So they think, I think all listeners out there are saying, I'm the same. Like, I'm my kid's personal assistant.
Wow.
What's this? What's that? And I'm like, I hate doing it. It annoys me. I always say to my kids, I'm not your personal assistant. If you want to know what is on today, go to the calendar. Just that process of them getting up and looking at Tuesday the 5th, September or whatever it is, and going, oh, we've got this and this. And I find, even my little one is doing it now. My youngest goes up there and has a look, works out the day of what, is it Tuesday? Yes. And
the same as, I know my mum started doing this because she hated the nightly question of what's for dinner. She'd make us ask her in Greek, even though we didn't even know how to say it. She taught us how to say it, just as a Pope said, it's the only Greek I can speak. And she just ended up putting it on the fridge. It's like, this is what's happening. This is it. Stop asking.
And it relieves your mum's anxiety. That was like a little thing.
I think that our listeners are going to have such good ideas, and I'm going to go through this and just copy and paste everything that they've said, because this is not my forte.
I'm the biggest planner. I'm probably doing the complete opposite and increasing anxiety in my kids because I'm such a planner.
I don't think so.
Do you think? Tell me I'm not.
Xander would love to live with you. He struggles with me. He does.
I just to wrap it up, I put, just for something for our listeners to ponder, there's this great website, socialthinking.com, and as usual, we'll leave all our resources on our websites and at the end of the podcast. There are a few questions to think about, whether your kid is actually doing a good job of transitioning from adolescence to young adulthood. So I'm only going to read a few because there's loads and they're available on the website. But one of them is, do they keep track of their own homework assignments? And another one is, do they know how to ask for help?
Oh, I love this. Can we share this? This is so good.
It's going to be on our website with all our other fabulous free resources. Do they have strategies for managing their anxiety when dealing with a stressful day?
Oh, I love this.
I find that so important. Like, I come home sometimes, yes, I've had a really hard day, And sometimes, yes, you act angry. You do things with your behavior that does not show that you had a great day. Your kids pick up on this. So how do you expect them to learn how to deal with their stressful day when they come home if you're not showing them how? And sometimes sometimes my kid will go, "Oh, you look so sad today, Mum. What happened? Why do you look so tired?" More often than not. And I'll go, "Oh, I just had the worst day ever." And then I find myself changing the narrative. I had the worst day, and this is what made it bad. However, however, is what I'm going to do. I'm going to take a long bath. And getting your kids open in talking about, okay, I had a stressful day too, Mum, today. This person said this about me, and I dropped my lunchbox and everything fell out. And that's so important to have as a dialogue in the family of talking about, okay, things didn't go our way, but what can I do?
Yeah. Or what were some special moments today, and what were some things that didn't go how you wanted, how are you going to respond to that? This is conversation, healthy conversation.
Absolutely.
And it's a reflective practice that you can do very easily. And I find I don't know if this works for you, Yvonne, with your teenage kids, when the stock standard response is, my teenager doesn't talk, but the best way around this is when you're in the car and they're comfortably distracted, meaning looking at the scenery, looking out the door, and there's not that direct eye contact. It's actually a really natural way to have a conversation, and they're more likely to talk because you're going somewhere, you're getting from A to B, and during that time it's natural to have a conversation at that point versus they've just walked in the door. How was your day? Who did you sit with? That's not, pick your time. That's not the time.
Which is why more often than not kids like to tell us every single thing that happened.
Before bed.
Just before bed.
Yeah.
Because they're calm.
Yeah. Yeah, and they're reflecting. It's a natural point of reflection.
And we're always rushing them to bed. No, not now. Tell me in the morning. So do you know what I started doing with my teenager?
What?
Waking him up at 5:30 to go for a run.
Oh, I love that.
I highly, apart from the fact that no one's walking the dog and we really need to start walking her because she's getting a little bit fat, but it doesn't have to happen every single morning.
Yeah.
But I highly recommend to listeners, if you've got a teenager, if you can get them up before school, half an hour before school, to go for a walk, doesn't have to be a run, go for a walk around the block, the conversations and the things that you talk about are absolutely
priceless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely priceless.
Well, your endorphins are going
Exactly.
and it's a beautiful time of the morning. I really agree with that. Or a partner or a friend even, these are, All right, so we will leave it there.
We will.
And I really am keen to read the comments.
Yes.
Because I know there are incredible ideas that are going to come from our community. So we will look through those. Thank you so much. And we will look forward to connecting with you in the next episode.